This week I'm working on replacing the fabric in these OceanAir hatch shades. As you can see, they're about 15 years old, and water has leaked onto them and caused them to look pretty nasty, and they're kind of falling apart on the sides. So what I'm going to do is just replace the fabric, because these frames are very expensive and it'll be pretty cheap to just do that. And I'll also replace the bug screen on the other side. So I'm just going to show you how I do that. The first thing to do is to get this down from the ceiling. And the way we're going to do that is pop this open with a small flathead screwdriver and then remove the 4 screws. So there's one in each corner. So we'll get that down and then take it to the work table. There's a variety of different styles of these OceanAir shades. I've got 3 different kinds. Here's one that's in the heads, and then this one as well. They all are built in a similar manner, so the techniques that we're going to use to repair them are the same. So just keep that in mind. That shouldn't be too different for any of these different styles. Okay, now we have it out and on the table, so let's take a look at how to disassemble it. Basically, the pieces are held in by this screw here and this screw here, and this is different on different models. So the first thing to do is to remove those and pull this piece out. We also want to note which end of the trim was facing which way when it was in the boat before we removed it, which I forgot to mention, but basically we want to make sure it goes back in the same way, because the trim ring is not necessarily, even all the way around. It's cut in such a way to hide imperfections in how level it is. So that's something to note. So we'll start by removing these 2 screws and pulling this piece out. With those 2 screws out, now we'll just pop out the trim ring, which is just simple. You just kind of push it out with your hand. It's not in there too tightly. And then once you do that, you can pull these corners out, straight out of this. But I'll need 2 hands to do that, so I'll have to turn off the camera for now. So now we've got this end piece out. This one we're working on is the Blackout curtain. Just take a minute to study, how it works. The handle needs to be facing this way so that it can latch onto this. Take a look at the back here. One side has got a metal bar that we'll see more closely in a minute, and the other side has more of a plastic nub. So we want to note that, and also kind of see how this bar is done here, and how this piece right there, that keeps this black magnet bar from being able to slide out. And I'm just noticing it looks like we're missing that piece on this side, so maybe we'll come up with a different solution there. The first thing we're going to do to get this out is to remove this screw and take this piece off. This is under some pressure here from being wound, so just be careful when you pull it off. It's going to want to spin, so just hold it carefully as you do that. With the end removed, now we're just going to slide this out of the tube, bringing this with us, and then set it on the table. I'll have to use 2 hands for that as well. Now we've got that out, and what I'm going to do is remove this bar from this. What you would need to do is to remove one of these end pieces. Sometimes you can get it out without doing that, because there's usually a bit of a gap here, but it doesn't hurt to take it out. Since I seem to be missing one of the pieces, which is probably still somewhere in the frame, I'm just going to slide it out this way, and it's pretty easy. You just go like so. What you're left with is there is a small piece of plastic rod inside here, and we're going to call that the spaghetti noodle, because that's what it looks like, and that's what's holding it in here, and you'll see that in just a moment. So I was searching for the missing piece, and it looks like it's right there. So that also explains why the hatch was not operating very well. So we've recovered that, and that will go onto here. Well, actually, it looks like it's quite broken, so it's not going to go on there. We're going to have to work out something different, but I'll at least get all the pieces of it out of here so that they won't jam up the slider again. I've now unrolled it, and I've also flipped it over. So I'm doing this way just because this is the way I've remembered which way the fabric needs to curl and face. So I've been doing it where this metal bar is at the top left. When you do it this way, then I can remember that the fabric goes underneath the bar and rolls up and over, and then is secured. The good side of the fabric is facing down, and then when we come down here to this end, it goes underneath the spaghetti noodle and comes back over. So we'll remember that, but now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this from this roller, we're basically just going to rip it off of there as carefully as we can to get as much of it as possible. And then we'll also do the same thing down here. But down here I'll use shears and I'll cut along the edge and then pull the spaghetti noodle out of there. So I've ripped this end off of the bar, and now I'm working on this end. So you see I'm using shears to cut in there, and then here is the forbidden spaghetti noodle. And so I'm pulling that out as I go. You want to save this, but get rid of this fabric, but make sure to save this. Okay, so now we've got both the spaghetti noodle out and we've removed it from the bar. What we want to do before we get rid of the fabric is to just measure how wide it is, and then also measure how long it is. Here I've got to take into account the fact that this piece comes back over and I didn't peel this back up, I cut into it. So get those measurements, and then basically take a piece of brand new Blackout fabric and just cut it with shears. I've already done that, so here it is. So I'm not going to show that on camera, but it's very simple. I just laid it out with several rulers to make sure it was nice and square, and then cut it with shears. And this is a Blackout curtain fabric that I got from Sailrite, but you could get it from really any fabric store would work. Before we start to glue the new fabric on, we need to deal with this roller. This one is worse than the other ones I had done as far as material being left behind. But what I've found works pretty well is just something like, a painter's tool or something, and scrape away at it. So get just as much of this off as you can. I found it seems to be okay to leave some of the glue right there. If it's not coming off, it's well adhered to this, so it shouldn't matter, but I do try to get all of the fabric off. So just get it as clean as you can. Also, this one doesn't seem to have it, but some of my other ones had like just clumps of salt crystals from seawater that had gotten into them. So be sure to get all that off. Just get this really clean. Okay, having cleaned the bar decently, I then cleaned my work surface and I laid the new fabric that I cut out with the side that I want to face into the cabin down. I've got my bar laying here with the this little metal part sticking out to the left. What I'm going to do is use super glue or CA glue. I think really any kind would work, but the one I've got is just regular Gorilla super glue, and put a thin bead all along this, and then roll up the fabric on that. I want it to kind of sit, there's a bit of a ridge right here, so I want it to kind of sit on that. So what I'll do is I'll go across there, roll it up on there, and then I'll hold it in place as long as it takes to set, maybe up to a minute. That's all I need to do there, and then it'll be done. Okay, the glue's cured on this, and now it's attached pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll this up until I can get to where I can get this end piece on the table to work on. Okay, now on this end we need to lay the spaghetti noodle out, and we need the fabric to come up and over and then adhere. I was using super glue to do this, but I was having a bit of a hard time getting this spaghetti noodle to lay straight. So I'm going to actually just use some seam stick basting tape to do that, accomplish the same thing. So here we can see I've got the seam stick right along the edge, and then I've just rolled the spaghetti noodle to right on the edge of that, and then now I'll just be able to fold this over that. I'll probably do just a little bit of CA glue right here just to give it a little extra, but I don't know. I don't really think that's necessary. But as you can see, this is now lined up nice and straight down the length. Now that's been folded over and the glue has dried. I've made sure that the spaghetti noodle is right on the bottom edge there, so it'll feed nicely back into this bar. We want this so that the latch of the handle is facing towards the roller bar, and then we're just going to slide the end right in. So here I'm just showing how it slides in, just like that. I'll have to put down the camera to do the rest, but that's just to show you how the mechanism works. The spaghetti noodle is what's keeping it from sliding out of that, so that's what's holding it tight. To correct for the fact that this piece is broken and not able to hold this magnetic bar in, I'm just putting a drop of CA glue down in there, and now I'm going to slide this slide the magnetic bar over that, and so that's just enough glue to hold that in place. So I'll just get that where it goes and let it set up. Now I've flipped this back over and I've rolled it up all the way, and we're going to slide this in the slot the same way it came out, with making sure that the bar is on the outside of this and everything else goes inside the hole. And then we want to get this little nub right here to sit in. It's going to be hard to see on the camera, but you'll have to look at yours in person. There's a receiver for that down in there, so you want to make sure that goes in there. Now we've got that in there nicely. I've got the latch locked on here just to hold that all in place. What we need to do to put this piece back on is to spin this clockwise as much as we possibly can to get good tension on it. And then what I'll do is I'll hold it right here to hold what I've got, how much I've spun it. And then I'm gonna slot that right there onto the end of that, and then press it all the way in, and then I've got to hold it once it's in, so it's going to try to shoot back out. And then once I've got it held in, then I'm going to put the screw through there. This takes at least 2 hands. It would be nice if I had 3 hands to do it, so I certainly can't film it. But again, you're just going to spin this as much as you can, slot that on there. What you're doing here is you're adjusting the tension that's on this thing, so that when it's out, when you unlatch it, it'll suck itself back in. So once you get it in there, if it's not coming all the way back in good, then you need to increase the tension. If it's too much to the point that it can't even hold with the magnetic bar, then you've got too much and you need to take a few turns off. Sometimes you can also have this on there and spin it, but I find that a lot of times it slips out, and then, yeah, it'll scare you pretty good. If after doing this you seem to have an issue pulling it out, the number one thing I would check would be over here on the other end. Make sure that plastic nub is still in there. A lot of times it has a tendency to fall out and drop, and you won't realize it, and you'll be wondering why it's not working well. So just make sure that's still in there good once you seal everything up. Okay, so I've put it all back together, and I've made sure that it works and retracts pretty well. So now I'm going to put it back in the frame the same way that we took it out. It can be a little bit tricky. You've got to make sure that these little pieces, again, both of mine seem to be a bit broken, but both of these pieces, they kind of align in this groove here. So you just want to get those in there, and then secure it with the screw through here. Don't worry about the trim plate. You can just shove that in there afterwards. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I've got the frame back together. Now just a simple matter of pushing the trim ring back in. Easy enough. Once I do that, I'm going to turn around, and now I'm going to do the other side, which has got the bug screen in it. Okay, the side with the sunshade, you remove this from the frame the exact same way, and then same thing here, you just cut open the fabric to remove the spaghetti noodle looking thing, and then just peel the mesh off this roller and clean the roller. So this comes apart exactly the same. Okay, so I've just used the old mesh as a template to cut the new mesh to the same size. I'm using a bug screen mesh that I got from Sailrite, and this one I'm using is black. It's just what I happen to have, but I think maybe it'll be better because it won't show stains quite as bad as the white, which is kind of turned into more of a yellowy beige over time. So this is what I'm going to use instead. I'm going to apply a line of basting tape or seam stick tape or double-sided tape to this edge here, and then I'm going to place the spaghetti noodle just right on the edge of that glue and then fold it over like so. The reason I'm using seam stick is that with the mesh, the super glue would just kind of go right through it, and this seems to work a lot better. So I'll just peel this off, roll this down just right on the edge, flip this over and press it down. That has seemed to work pretty well in the other ones I've already done. This is that bottom part with the spaghetti noodle adhered in there, so that part's done. So now we're gonna move to the top. I'm gonna have the whatever we want to call this metal piece on the left here. The way the fabric's gonna go is just like the other, just like the blackout curtain, is gonna go under and then over. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna put a piece of seam stick along this length. After sticking the mesh on the roller with the double-sided tape, now I'm gonna put just some super glue along this here to just reinforce that bond and let that set up for a minute. Now that the super glue is cured, I will go ahead and roll this up, and I've already put back on you know, the handle and magnet bar, and just reassemble it back into the tube the same way we did the other side. Okay, so here we are with it finished. I think the black bug screen looks really good, so that's nice. And then so does this. I accidentally got a little bit of oil from my fingers on there, so I'll need to clean that. But now this works really well, and so it's ready to just reinstall back into the cabin. So I hope this helps. There's a lot of different kinds of these OceanAir shades, but they're all kind of the same principle, at least the ones that we have. Even the ones that go on the wall and pull down, they seem to all have a similar kind of bar here and a similar type of roller mechanism. It's really just the trim frame. So hope you can figure out how to replace yours from that. Good luck.